Variables. Hello, I am Parth Arya, and today I'll help you understand the concept of variables using Python. Storage is important everywhere around us. Take an example. Say you have a crate of mangoes at your house, and of course you can't eat all of them there and then, so you want to store them. Now, what would your process be? You would store those mangoes, you would remember where you stored them, and whenever you wanted to use them again, whenever you wanted to eat them, you would remember where you stored them and go and access them from there. Similarly in Python, say you have a number and you want to store it for later. You store it in a variable, give the variable a name, and whenever you want to access it in the future, you can just use the variable name. Let me show you an example. Say you have a number 271 and you want to store it in a variable so that you can use it later. And you want to name that variable number. So this is how you do it. You write number, which is a variable I want to make, an equal to sign, and then 271. And of course these spaces don't matter. In Python you could leave spaces in most places, or you could not leave them and it wouldn't make a difference. And now I press enter and my variable number is made. Of course you could also do it while saving your file by clicking file, new file, and storing it there. Now I have this number already stored. Now just to show you that it contains 271, I print number. So this is how I can print the value stored in a variable. Enter and 271 is printed. Now I could change that value to 281, and if I print it again, you can see that now the value of number is 281. So I can change the value of a variable, or in this case I can reassign a variable. And you know what, an interesting thing, you could also increase the value of a variable without knowing what the value is. So for example, say I don't know what value is stored in number and I just want to increase it by 10. I say number is equal to number plus 10. Now if you think about this mathematically, it doesn't make sense. How can number be equal to number plus 10? But what equal to means here is that this, whatever is on the right hand side of equal to, is stored in this variable. It doesn't actually mean equals. So the previous value of number, which was 281, add 10 to that, 291, and store it in number. So now if I print number, you can imagine the value is 291. And these were integers. Of course, you could also store strings, booleans, lists, all the data types that you know in a variable. So a variable is essentially a container of values, and you can use those values later. And I could also store the value of an existing variable in a new variable. So I have number, and now I make number 2. So number 2 is another variable, and I store the value of number here and add 5 to it. So now when I print number 2, this is 296. But one important thing here is that you can only add integers to integers. So if I make a number 3 and I for some reason decide to add a string to it, so I write number, which contains 281 right now, and I want to add hello to it. This gives me an error because I cannot add an integer to a string. So a variable could only have one data type at a time. Now moving on, there are some rules for variables names. So first of all, your variables can only start with either alphabets or an underscore. So underscore hello, this is a valid variable, or just hello is a valid variable, but one hello is not a valid variable because you cannot start your variable names with a number. But you could have a number inside your variable names, just like I showed you. So hello123 is a valid variable name, and underscore hello123 is a valid variable name. Moving on, you cannot have special symbols in your variable names. You cannot have hyphens, commas, plus, equal to, asterisks, all these symbols. You cannot have them in your variable names. So hello hyphen hi. If I try to make this a variable, I store the value 5 in it. There is an error because this is not actually Python does not recognize this as a variable because I have a hyphen inside. And just to show you another example, underscore hello underscore hi. This is what happens when you don't store anything to your variable, you just write it. So Python does not understand because you're not having an equal to symbol here, signifying that you are assigning something to a variable. Now hello underscore hi is equal to 10. This works because underscores are allowed. So whenever you want to have two words in a variable name, this is how you could do it. So if I want to have a variable name called my name, so I could write my underscore name is equal to parth. And when I print my underscore name, parth is printed. So I wanted to have two words as a variable name, but I cannot have spaces in my variable names. So I separate them using underscores. And finally, you should make sure that your variables are relevant. They make sense. So I wanted to have my name in a variable, so I gave the name my name. Similarly, if you want to store your age in a variable, you gave the name age. And there is another rule which is a little difficult to understand right now. There are some terms, key terms in Python, like if, for, while, and you cannot use those in a variable because they stand for something else, which we would learn in later lessons. So you cannot have if is equal to 5 because if it stands for something else. So that is why Python gets confused. And that is about it for variables. Just remember, you want to store something, store it in a variable. And you can check out my book, link in the description below. And there are many examples in that if you want to practice something using variables and the further lessons as well. Thank you so much for watching.